So, Mr. Oliver, last time that I was here, you didn't have that much of gray hair. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I think it's the kids, man.
Kids?
I think that's
You're
what
not
it
blaming
is.
Slotcars?
No. Probably have less gray hair if I was more Slotcars. But
Okay,
the
good.
kids, I think, are responsible for that.
How many kids do you have?
I got 3 of them.
3 of them.
Yeah.
How old are
so,
they?
one just turned 15 yesterday.
They're adults now.
Yep.
You,
Yeah,
you don't have the excuse anymore. Soon you don't have the excuse anymore.
That's true. That's true. Well, then I'll start dyeing my hair, and then I won't. Nobody will know. So.
Good. 15 and what else?
15 is my middle. I got one that's 17, my oldest, my son, and then one that's 12, that's about to be 13.
Oh my God,
So,
teenagers now.
Yeah. Yeah, in a month or so. So.
Fun is right there. So, first time that I was here, I was joking. Your father was around, and I want you to hear a little bit more because Professor Motor is such an establishment on this road, and everybody that I speak with, they always have a story about Angie and how you guys were doing. And I remember talking to someone yesterday. They were saying, "Oh, I was from the time when I have to send my motors to Angie, and he has to rewire everything." And I don't know much about the history of Professor Motor as far as our business relationship and the fact that I was here and spoke with Bonnie and I met your father. But and that famous picture of you, Brad, and Angie on a kitchen table doing something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the only references that
Well-
I have.
Well, when it started was, my dad had always raced slot cars ever since he was a little kid, right? So when he worked for Ford for years, and it got kind of close to retirement, and he was doing a controller. Just the controller is how we started. It was just, I think he originally sold the design. I want to say to, it wasn't Parma. It was another commercial company.
Rusket?
No,
Young, not that old.
I don't remember, but then he got it back, right? So he asked them. He said, "Hey, if you guys aren't going to produce it, I'd like to produce the controller." So that's how we started. We started producing that controller. Then we started bringing in the 32nd scale stuff with the Pro Slot, Europe,
Yeah,
right?
when they somebody was doing Pro Slot cars using the American brand.
Yeah, yep. And that was an interesting experience. We in the very beginning, they were pretty nice cars in the very beginning, but then unfortunately the company kind of flew into the ground. They started using, for photo etch parts that were not stainless steel, and they would rust, and the gears would bust, and they just, eventually they just, went out of business essentially. But that's kind of how we got started, was just through controllers and then through that. But the controllers, when I was younger, when I was in high school, I would make the controllers in our basement. So Mom would make them, I would make them. Everyone was making them.
What are you doing? Nothing. Come over.
Yeah, come on over. Yeah, and I
Video games? No.
Yeah,
come on over.
Well, that's the thing too, right? So we had a little, we had a 4-lane routed track in the basement, right? And I would have my buddies over sometimes, and I would, occasionally that we would race on the track. Most people in the U.S., they don't even know what a slot car is, right? I mean, it's a small niche thing.
You need to explain. You need a second sentence to explain what it is, and then yep.
Yeah. So, but my friends would come over, and we could race on the track and stuff like that. So we always had a good time. But yeah, so it was, we started building controllers in the house. We had it, in the garage. We had it in the kitchen. We had it in the closets. Everywhere you would go, you'd open a door and there'd be parts on the back side of the door, or there'd be wire in the kitchen cupboard where the cups were, So
Your whole wife, like, wires and wires all around, right?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere,
Jeez,
right?
Yeah.
So, so that kind of is what got us started into it, and then he just kind of, added stuff over the years and kind of grew it. We ended up getting,
But he was involved in slot cars before that.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So, he did a lot of work even with guys like JK, right? He would help JK with the technical side and the motors and stuff. So that was something that he liked to do. He really liked to build the stuff, but again, his background was an engineer. You know what I mean? So he really enjoyed building the stuff, but he had a lot of experience, like I said, because he did it since the '60s when he was a little kid, right? So that was always something he kind of liked to do too, like we had a vintage night every once in a while where, we'd bring out all the old stuff, and the guys would run it, and, he liked doing that. But, it just kind of grew from mainly from the controllers to start. And then, I guess
stuff.
Yeah.
First was Pro Slot and then keep going.
Yeah. It was first a little shop, and then, we got a little bit bigger shop and a little bit bigger shop, and then we, ended up here.
That's
so.
the fourth building?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so we tried, I think the first one was like 1,500 square foot. It's just a little place, and we put the little track up in the front so people could come up and race, and, and that was, it was interesting back then because, like, they didn't have like inventory and stuff like that like they do now, right? Like, people would order online and we're picking orders and hoping that they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, hey, I want one of these. Okay, well, let's hope when we go back to the box that it's sitting in there. You know what I mean?
Safe there, yeah.
Because it wasn't, I think we started in the 90s on the internet. So it was an interesting time. I mean, I going to college, I didn't think, I went for exercise science. That's what I graduated with. So for me, I didn't even think that it would end up where it ended up. I didn't think that, the slot car thing's going to go, gonna end up, I'll be working for the next 25 years doing it,
But but by the time that we went to college, was that the main family business or?
So that's what, I mean, we were still doing, I was still working, making controllers for Dad at the time. He brought me in to make controllers and stuff first. That was where, how he brought me in was just making stuff in the basement. We'd solder up controllers and, I still get some of those occasionally back, by the way, that are 25 years old or whatever now. But, and there's, we can still make them work, actually. So, and then, I as I got older, I graduated from school, and he said, hey, we'd like to have you, if you'd like to do it. And at that time, I said, well, you guys put me through college. I think I probably owe you at least that. So
that was 98, 99?
It was around, I'd say, right around 2000, I think, somewhere in there. Because, I mean, give or take a year or two in there.
So we're about the same age. You're probably from 77, 78?
Yeah, 77, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I'm from 81.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So should I look forward for my next 3 years, my gray hair?
Well, depends on the kids, man. That's what it depends on.
I don't have any, so that's why.
So
that's
you're
explained.
Good. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're fine.
That's so the whole life you've been involved with this. It's kind of similar to my story because my father used to own a racetrack in Brazil, and I remember going to high school with my fingernails all dusty and dirty because I was working for him the night before.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of similar, which is kind of.
Now,
cool.
Did you work at? So did he own a racetrack?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
He owned a raceway for like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a business that was going down, and we have this community of racers, and the guy who owned it, I was living in a close by city, so it was a hassle for him to come and open. Yeah. And he just had signed a new lease, so he had to pay a lot of money to get out of it. And my father said, okay, let's figure out this thing. So he figured out, and we kept it for 3 years.
Oh, cool.
And when high school was over, my mom said, yeah, this boy's going to college. He's not working anymore. My father looked around, so by myself, no, I'm not going to do this. So he closed down. But scratch built chassis. And I was in the hobby.
Okay.
My father was in the hobby in the 60s, 70s. And then he completely forgot about it. And it was kind of a thing back in the 90s. We have like a local shop. My colleagues were going, school colleagues were going. I said, you know what? So I found some money, got a car, and started doing it. And my father figured out that my father was kind of a crazy person. Like everything that he does needs to be the extreme and needs to go there. So 6 months later, he owned a shop.
Oh boy. Okay.
And then I have to figure out how to do. And it was successful. We had a lot of fun. We didn't manufacture anything. We just buying and selling, but I have to put together the cars, the brass chassis cars, 124.
Well, so that's years in the 80s. We did own a commercial shop for a while. It was short-lived, but there were, I think it was maybe 3 years or so, 4 years.
Lightning?
No. So this was before that. This is like in the 80s when, long before we ever got into controllers or long before we ever got into anything like that. He had a place called Joy 500. It was just a little raceway. It was commercial. It had wood tracks and, and a drag strip, and that's what we did, right? And then he moved it to a little bit bigger facility, and it was called Family Hobbies and Cones. And cones. We had ice cream up in the front, so you could come in, and Mom was working the ice cream, right? So, you could come in, you could race some slot cars and get some ice cream. So. We did that for a couple years, and then.
Funny.
Oh, and so he actually at that location when we had it, he held a Worlds here.
Okay,
so it was a guy
rolled with.
Yeah, that's how Mom knows Google.
Okay.
There was
so Roads and Cones was the name of the race.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And we did hobbies, right? So there was other stuff. I mean, they dabbled a little bit in RC or whatever, right? Just kind of other hobby stuff, but it was primarily slot cars, and that's what my dad knew, and that's what he loved. So that was kind of primarily it. So we did that for a little bit, but then it got to the point where Dad said, well, either I got to do this full time or I go back, because he was still at Ford, So he said, well,
what he was doing at Ford?
So he was an engineer in the transmission. He worked at, I think he worked in a couple different places over the years, but that's where he finished up was
so if
transmission.
I have a problem with my transmission built from 79 from my side, I can blame
That's right. You can call
you.
Hey.
I can call you. still under warranty, that shit?
Yeah. So he finished up in Livonia, which is where we had that Lightning Speedway. So it was in Livonia. Yeah. So, so it got to the point where he said, hey, I'm going to stick back to this Ford thing because it pays well and they got a pension and, he had a family and everything. So then it wasn't until later on where he got into the controllers as he got kind of closer towards retirement and he knew that, hey, retirement's coming. I want to have something to do afterwards. So we started we started the business a few years before he retired. And then when he had a chance to retire, as soon as he had a chance for the buyout, he's like, okay, I'm out of here. And, and then he came over and we just did, we did it full time. Yeah. So, and that's where it kind of started to really grow once he was able to come in full time.
So I have a very similar job to yours right now. And I can only imagine the mess that you had to face when he passed a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was a challenge because there was so much, and that's what I tell everybody too. I said, he had more. Well, he'll probably forget more about this stuff than I'll ever know. But he had all these things and all these different things that he wanted to do. Some of them we got a chance to do. Some of them he got a chance to start, and then other things, like I know there was things that he probably had that. No, I'll never know.
Projects and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the day by day. Like I know.
Oh well, even that. Yeah.
Active.
Even that, because like once you lose somebody that's working there 40 hours, and you got to figure out, okay, now somebody else has got to fill in that job, and somebody else has got to do all the ordering for the guys in the manufacturing, and somebody's got to make sure that they pick up on the ordering for the other stuff that's coming in, just on the on the website side, or we have to it was interesting seeing. Because, I had what I did, and then when he passed, I was like, holy smokes, now I got to do all this stuff. It's like I didn't even realize that he was doing half of this stuff. But, once he passed, then it was like, oh, man, there's
I can only imagine,
a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
So.
Do you believe that the hobby is growing? And everybody that I ask, because I'm relatively new to this. I've been around for 5 years. Well, I've been around Slotcars for 30, but I got this job 5 years ago. And I always ask this, and people just, 2010 was super good. Now, maybe.
I think with a lot of things, there's ebbs and flows to it, I think. I think that, it has been growing. I don't know if it's so much that I feel like probably here in the States, maybe it's kind of grown and kind of come up and then down a little bit and up, and there's peaks and valleys to it for sure. But I can't say what it would be like in 20 years necessarily, because again, nowadays, like you said, with kids nowadays, you got video games, you got all this stuff.
But we've been using that excuse since the 90s.
But that's true. That is true. Yeah. I really think it's about it's about promotion, right? I mean, it's about things like this. It's about getting people to see it and to understand it, because we ran hundreds of birthday parties when we were at the last place, hundreds of birthday parties, and I never once had a kid that didn't love it. Never once. And I do miss that part.
But that's not a problem. The kid came back and bought a car and started to be...
Right, yeah.
That's hard to convert, right?
Yeah.
Because we do the car shows, and we started opening on Saturday, so we can have new people coming. And because of the track, and it's difficult for me to convert that guy who came here and rent for an hour to say, okay, I'm going to get a box. I'm going to get some cars. I'm going to see what they're racing, and I'm going to get involved.
Yeah.
And
you get a lot of, at least in my experience, there was always some that would come and go. I mean, there's always going to be some that will be kind of the hardcore group that will stay and race, and they'll be your hardcore racers. Yeah. But you'll have guys that'll come in and out of it just like any other hobby, right? Whether it was hunting, whether it was fishing, whether it was anything else, you're going to have people that will come in and out of the hobby, and they won't be hardcore, but they'll come in for a while and maybe they'll come out, and that seems to happen all the time. My biggest thing was always the kids, because I said, listen, if you don't get the kids racing, you don't get kids exposed to this, and the young people, Well, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there ain't going to be nobody racing. Because those young kids, those are the guys that are going to come back and when they have kids, say, oh, man, I used to do this with my dad.
Which is the hardcore racers right now, the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Guys that used to do it as kids.
They got the bug all the way in the back. But the kids right now, like the guys we're expecting to come back, they're in their 40s.
Yeah.
So that's me, you, and me. So those guys, they kind of didn't have the same exposure that people had on the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back then, I mean, it was everywhere. I mean, it was like, there was a gas station on every corner and a slot car nearby it, right?
Yeah.
So
I went to Modelville and they have like this letter on the wall from a distributor, and the guy says his name was like on Salvage or something.
Okay.
And he says like, he's in the business since 1929, so it's an old letter from the 60s, right? Typewriter. And he says, I heard that the first sentence, I heard that you're interested in opening a slot car model place, whatever. And the second sentence is, for some owners, this is a license to print money, which is the greatest. Sure.
That's fantastic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nowadays the joke is how can you become a millionaire doing slot cars?
You start with $2 million.
That's what
you do. You start with $2 million.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it's a hardcore job. I think one of the reasons for coming here and visiting you properly, because the first time that I was here was in a motorhome trip.
Yeah.
Was to talk a little bit more. I think there's only like 10 guys selling.
Yeah, I would
maybe
say,
a little more.
give or take. Maybe there's 10, 12, but that's really
That's
kind
about
of
it.
the
So it's a very
the
small
bulk of
group.
it.
And I think we've been bombarded by new models. So there's so many new stuff coming. People in Europe got very excited about the pandemic, and they don't stop making stuff.
Yeah, well, and you're right. I think when that pandemic hit, it was a huge boon, right? I mean, because everybody was indoors, everybody was looking for something to do, and that was a huge boon for this industry, for sure.
And we need to take advantage of that, but I don't think we're quite there. That's my opinion, because again, in Europe, people don't stop making new models. There's no way to promote them any. And
the market's only so big, right? I mean, it's only going to absorb so much. So it does get you can get to an oversaturation point, right?
Yeah, which I believe that we are for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
If you see I don't want to say brands, but big established brands that were selling a lot from 2 years now, they're just decaying in a way.
Yeah.
Because we have better options, we have other options, and people who buy them first, secondly, they're going to do some online research and they say, okay, there's a better option with the same price.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard for me at least. I think that the worst part of the job is trying to find manufacturers that say, look, you need to organize this. You need to give me a schedule for release. Even if you're late, you need to have a release date. We cannot be rushing people to ship our stuff to be the first to get.
Right.
So we have this 3 days advantage to have the car. So that's kind of a silly. So we need to work together between us. And
it sounds like Scale Auto is kind of pushed more now towards that idea. I mean, they've at least opened up to it, which I think is great.
But NSR and Slotted did it 2 years ago.
Well,
which helped them a lot.
Yeah, they were ahead of the curve on that. But yeah, they all need to be doing that. But like you said, not everybody was on board with that.
Yeah, the big ones, I don't think they're going to do ever, because it's a production issue and they have to send numbers instead of quality. But yeah, it has been hard for me. That's the hardest part to figure out, and the problems that we have on cars that somebody has and they ship first, and then they start to sell in Europe and they start to get here and then.
I feel like Europe always gets the stuff ahead of us. It feels like that's always a problem we deal with, but.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I feel like we get the stuff ahead of Europe, but most of the time it feels like Europe will get it ahead of us. But.
And it's kind of for the local customer, just wait a couple of days.
Yeah.
Get local. Get in your favorite hobby shop. Get wherever they treat you better, or whatever send you more.
Wherever you're racing, right?
Yeah, or racing. That's the first thing. That's the very first thing.
Because if you don't support those guys, they ain't gonna be around. You ain't gonna have a place to race.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Talking about that, what is your feelings being around for such and have so many customers? What is your feeling about the old Raceway model? Like the guy who has a couple parts, a big track.
I think it's challenging nowadays for sure. I mean, when you see guys that have a Raceway, it's hard. I mean, they don't make it a lot of times because unless they're doing online sales. If you're not doing online sales, you're just not making it as a Raceway, because you can't the rent is too high, the cost is too high, the square footage is too much because you have
end of the
tracks.
day, you're gonna miss one little wheel, and your customer is gonna go online and get it.
Yeah. I mean, around here we've seen a lot of tracks come and go over the years, and mainly it's because they don't have an online presence where they can get extra sales, right? Where they can get the extra revenue stream to keep the business open, and that's a problem, I think, for a lot of the regular customers. So,
which was the closest raceway to here?
probably Mike's place. Yeah.
Mike's place in Michigan, in
Milford. Yeah, so he's like about
40 minutes?
about 45 minutes probably.
Oh,
Yeah, you make it there in about 45 minutes.
And he mainly do 1/32 scale, right?
Yeah, and
We're talking about the Cloverleaf.
Yeah. His shop, it's 1/32 scale. He's got a couple of small routed tracks in there, which are nice. They're nice routed tracks, but it's not like you're not walking into a 5,000 square foot building because, I mean, the rent on a 5,000 square foot building, you just can't make happen, right? Yeah. So, but he's able to make that shop run and work, and he does a lot online. So it works, works for him.
Yeah.
So
it's been on for a long time. Yeah, we're sitting on a scale auto track that he's putting together. You're not supposed to, so that's why. That's why you hear the noises.
I'm making all these creaking noises all
Very
the time.
Very good track, Ethan. Very good track. It's holding us here. It's squeaking out. I like this foam that you put in here. That's cool.
Well, it's funny because I asked Andrea earlier. I said, "Hey, man, what do you guys do?" And it took him a while to get back to me. But by the time he got back to me, I'd already come up with this idea. But he's like, "Oh yeah, I just cut I think it was like half inch board, And I was like, oh, well, I could have done that. I said,
no, but this is better. I like the idea.
Well, the reason why I did this is just so that I can have, because there's going to be a jumper in there somewhere, right? So I can kind of shave out, I can just shave out a spot for the jumper to come. But
yeah, the tracks over there, they're very bumpy, so don't use them. As a point that you can see the light coming out. So
Well, I mean, it's not like a routed track, right? I mean, the routed tracks are just going to be the best to run on, period. But it's different. It's a different experience.
I think we should support the plastic ones because that's the way that people can have the track at home easily. Yeah. And it's super cheap now, so.
Yeah, it gives them an opportunity to take it home. And
I was at the Great Traditions
Richards.
track, and he has a Corolla track that has been around for 18 years. And it looks like he just put it together because it's all new, all clean, everything's nice. It's a good product.
In his races, right? He would actually have, I think it was Windex they would use.
Yes, I saw that for the first time. I'm still in shock.
I was like, Windex, really?
Right on the beginning of the straight, they just this little strip of Windex.
Yep.
And when your car crosses, you just clean the tires and you hope for the best on the first corner because it's still wet.
Because your tires are still full of Windex in the first corner.
But then it keeps cleaning the track and the tire. Yeah, that's very good. I saw them doing this. What the hell are you guys doing? And then they explained to me. I was in shock. First time.
It's a unique experience for sure.
People are finding their stuff.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part of the hobby.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever raced?
Yeah, I have. I'll participate in events. Like the big events like the NSR race. I always kind of participate, but I'm not. I don't know. I enjoy the race. I'm not as competitive as some of the guys are. So I just know that, like, hey man, I'm never gonna be beating anybody. I'm just there to have fun. You know what I mean? So I show up and
that's exactly my motto.
Yeah. That's right. Right. Yeah.
Could I kill someone? Let me give him one more lap so I can go back and sleep tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I just that was never. Yeah, that was just never. I mean, I don't know. My dad really liked to build them. I just like the camaraderie with the people. I like people. That's what I like. Yeah. So for me, it was an opportunity to go do something with people.
Very political of you. Yeah, I like the people. Yeah. I like the people. I'm not going to beat them up. I like the people. Sure.
So, but no, some of the funnest racing I do is next weekend. I'm going to a couple guys' house in Chicago, and they have a couple big oxygen tracks.
Okay.
And so they do a lot of testing for Maurizio, right? And so that was always something that I really enjoyed going to do because, man, again, those guys are a bunch of engineers, but, we go out, we have a lot of fun, we have some drinks, we have some food, and we're racing, and it's a blast. I mean, it's laughs, it's a great time. And that's what I like to do.
Yeah, we enjoy the hobby. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as, I'm not as competitive, On the racing side, I just, like I said, I like to.
It's a way to enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's people who just collect. There's people who just
Yeah,
watch.
there's a lot of people
I
who
was
just
telling, I
correct.
was telling yesterday, who were we with yesterday with Jimmy. We have a customer who tried to match the exactly grid of a GT race. So he got all the career cars that match that 2019 Macau, whatever. And he has all these collections from the same race. And the ones missing, he asked us to make a replica. So we do decals and stuff. And he has this huge career track. And he sets ghosts of every single car is a ghost, and he just watched the race.
Yeah.
So it's a voyeur of slot cars.
Hey, man. Well,
it's a way.
If
Do whatever
you
you
enjoy
want.
it, right?
Enjoy it.
That's what makes you happy, right?
So, do you feel optimistic about the future of the hobby?
I think so. I feel like as long as we can get it out there in front of people, young people especially, that there'll always be people that'll want to do it, right? And it's a hobby, I think, that can be, you don't have to be. Anybody can do it. You don't necessarily. I mean, so there's a group we sell to, right? You may know him because I think he's in San Diego. I think he just has like he works with disabled kids.
I know him. Yeah, I know him.
Christian.
Christian. There we go.
Yeah. And but that's the great part about it. Like anybody can do it. You don't have to be. You know what I mean? You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be young, old, whatever. I mean, you can. Everybody can enjoy it. So that's kind of one of the cool things I think about it, is that anybody can pick up a controller and race. And I think that's where it'll always be there, because it's not. I mean, obviously, you can see when a guy knows how to build a car, right? I mean, you can tell. So it's
taking a little serious, taking more hours, but that's his way. That's his way to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's never going to be an Xbox, but it's I think it'll be there.
You don't get anything out of an Xbox. You have the experience over there, but you don't have the friendship. You don't have the manual labor. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have the upgrades that you do your car, and you can see on the track actually helping.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's something to having that three-dimensional object in your hand and understanding. Some of the principles, whether it be gearing and there's mechanical principles that apply, which is, it's good for young people to learn too.
So for your life, How many slot car controllers have you ever made? Have you any idea of this counting? You must have, by the molding, right?
I mean, I know we've sold thousands and thousands. I don't know how many I've actually put together.
No, but the overall count of the Professor Moro controllers out there. 15, right?
Boy, geez, I don't know.
Bunny, what do you think?
I was going to say
how many handle orders,
Yeah, I mean, we get 10,000 handles or whatever to crack, so I know we've done that several times. So there's probably, I don't know, maybe 50,000 controllers sitting out there.
50?
Yeah. Someone, yeah.
And you don't think slot cars are popular? There's
50,000
devices. There's only one way to do it. There's only one way to use it. So 50,000.
Yeah, I mean, because I know we've ordered, like I said, we've ordered controllers since we've done this a few times. Now, I guess probably we didn't maybe order as many in the beginning, so maybe there's 40,000 or something, right? I mean,
even though 40,000 devices that. If an extraterrestrial comes here and look at this thing, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to use this.
Yeah. So no, I mean it's been it's been good long term for sure for us. So and I think it still will. I think it'll still be there.
Positive, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Man, thank you very much again. It's a pleasure to be here. I know that I'm always welcome to come here, which is something
always,
that some people think they're competitors, but actually kind of working together for the same goal to make this happen.
In this industry, you have to do it like that. I mean, this industry is too small. I mean, like you said, there's a dozen big quote unquote players, right? I mean, this industry is much too small for people not to work together, and I think the customer base is big enough for everybody to get their share and be successful. So I think not working together, and I think that's been part of the problem with commercial stuff sometimes. I feel like some of those manufacturers or some of those guys, they really were at odds with each other a lot of times, and I think that didn't help the business, right?
Yeah.
When everybody is working together to promote it, to push it, then the business itself can be successful for everybody.
Yeah. We saw this happen on the late 60s when people started to put a lot of product on, start to fight each other, and then kind of killed.
Yeah.
We saw that happen in the 90s with those 124 legs and bodies. People started to kill each other too, and then died. And I think we're having a new wave of the hobby growing right now since the pandemic, or even a little bit before that. and I think we should enjoy. We should we are probably living the gold era again.
Yeah, I think so.
So many manufacturers, so many new models. They're so reliable. They're so cheap now. There's
Well,
much.
And the detail on the things is amazing, right? I mean, like you said, you got people that just collect them because the detail looks like a die-cast car.
Yeah. Sir, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks
See
for
you
having
soon.
me. All right.
I will be back soon.
All righty.